Scientific left-handed facts 1. Make up roughly 12% of the population on average. 12% of the world is left-handed, 87% right-handed, and 1% ambidextrous. However, the percentage of lefties worldwide is slowly creeping up as being left-handed becomes more socially accepted. Believe it or not, to this day some countries still try and force children to learn to write with their right hand. For example, in 1860 when a left-handed person was essentially seen as being in league with the devil, it is estimated that as little as 2% of the population was left-handed. The current 12% figure also varies by country and gender. If you'd like to find out more, we have an in-depth article here. Us left-handed guitarists are an even rarer breed. In a 2015 Reddit AMA, Paul Reed Smith PRS Guitars claimed that only 0.5% of guitarists played left-handed. Ever wondered why some people are born lefty? Check out this awesome video for a quick explanation. 2. More likely to have allergies. In the research book, Cerebral Dominance, The Biological Foundations, a study found that left-handed people were 11 times more likely to suffer from allergies than right-handed folk. The research also found that left-handers were 2.5 times more likely to suffer from autoimmune disorders, for example ulcerative colitis or rheumatoid arthritis. 3. More prone to migraines. In the same scientific study described above, it was also discovered that left-handed people were roughly twice as likely to experience migraines when compared to right-handed people. 4. More likely to suffer sleep deprivation. It turns out that being left-handed may also potentially ruin the quality of slumber that you experience. Periodic limb movement disorder (PLMD) is a condition where your limbs move involuntarily during sleep. In a 2011 study assessment of periodic limb movements in right-handed versus left-handed patients, it was found that 69% of right-handed participants had bilateral limb movements compared to a whopping 94% of left-handed patients. So if you're kicking your partner in bed while you sleep, now you know why. 5. Use the right side of the brain the most. The brain is cross-wired, meaning that the right side controls the left side of the body and vice versa. Hence the well-known saying, only left-handed people are in their right minds. The right-hand side of the brain is thought to coordinate the left side of the body and control tasks to do with the arts and creativity. However, a recent 2018 study, Unilateral 3D Arm Movement Kinematics are encoded in ipsilateral human cortex at Washington University, has suggested that tasks may be shared more equally than previously thought. It's important to note that the researchers have stated that since this study only involved 4 patients, there is a lot more research to be carried out before we can truly understand the relationship between brain and body. 6. More likely to be alcoholics. A 1973 paper by psychologist Paul Bakken, Left-Handedness and Alcoholism, noted that a higher than expected number of patients in an alcoholism ward were left-handed. However, in 2011 a study by Dr. Kevin Denny, Handedness and Drinking Behavior, looking at 25,000 people from 12 different countries, found that being a lefty did not result in excessive drinking later in life. What it did suggest was that left-handed people are more prone to drink at moderate levels than a right-handed person. So the common idea that lefties are more likely to be alcoholics might be a bit of a stretch. 7. Have higher intelligence levels. This one varies depending on how dated your source is. One 2007 study, Effect of Handedness on Intelligence Level of Students, shows that lefties are more likely to have higher IQs. However, another 2010 study, The Relationship Between Hand Preference, Hand Performance, and General Cognitive Ability, suggests the exact opposite. So which is it? To settle the debate, 2 researchers from the University of Athens in Greece compiled the data from several individual studies in order to collate data from a much larger sample size. The results of this research showed that right-handed people are smarter on average, but only marginally so. Assuming that the average left-hander had an IQ of 100, the average right-hander would be at 101.5. So the current belief is that the difference in intelligence between lefties and righties is so small as to be negligible. You can read the 2018 study here. An interesting left-handed statistic is that Mensa claims that 20% of its members are lefties, a much higher number than you'd expect. 8. Tend to reach puberty 4 to 5 months later than right-handers. This is another fact about left-handed people widely quoted over the internet. However, I can find no information or studies to back this idea up, so take it with a pinch of salt. If you are aware of a solid reference, send us an email and we'll add it. 9. More likely to suffer language problems. A 2009 study from Finland, mixed-handedness is linked to mental health problems in children and adolescents, which looked at problems with language in children, showed that mixed-handed children had a greater likelihood of experiencing language and scholastic issues which persist into adulthood. Likewise, a 1993 study from Norway, Dyslexia, Handedness, and Immune Disorders, which looked at 734 children, found a significant association between dyslexia and left-handedness. 10. More likely to be male. According to the 2008 study, Sex Differences in Left-Handedness, a meta-analysis of 144 studies, 23% more men are left-handed. This study compiled the data from 144 individual studies, including a sample size of almost 2 million participants, so is generally accepted to be statistically relevant. 11. Better at multitasking. Data collected in 2008 by the Illinois Research Consortium showed that left and right-handed people deal with task and memory performance in different ways. Experiments showed that when given 2 tasks to complete simultaneously, southpaw participants performed best. This is because right-handed people tend to solve problems by breaking them down into parts and analyzing each piece one at a time. Whereas left-handed people tend to look at the problem as a whole and use pattern matching to try and solve. 12. Live on average 9 years less than righties. You can breathe a sigh of relief, as this left-handed statistic was later disproved, although it is still widespread on the internet. A flawed 1980s study which looked at 1,000 deceased people from California showed that the average age that right-handed subjects died was 75, whereas for lefties it was just 66. The problem here is that the study assumes that the number of left-handed people remains static over time. Many people born in the early 1900s were forced to write right-handed, and so would not have identified as being left-handed at death. As a result, the findings from this study have been largely discredited. However, there has been some evidence to suggest that left-handers are more likely to have minor accidents than their right-handed counterparts, so we're not quite out of the woods.